Hello everyone, it is IT Chill here. Today I would like to talk about Snowden, DJB, EFF and NIST. I'm kinda afraid on describing the bio of Edward Snowden. Even though there are a lot of coverage on this person as a whole, I do not think that it is really good to describe this person once again. This person known as Edward Snowden, I believe that public opinion has been separated into two. One is he is a hero to the world, whereas one is he is a traitor to the world. In either case, whatever he had done, it is up to people to debate and decide, as he published a book of his own named Permanent Record. Other YouTubers or public names that I know also covered Edward Snowden. For this video, you will need to understand the following. In his book or throughout his personal history, there are several things which are quite important in its own. Governments and law enforcers could use warrant for both good and bad intentions. As these actions keep on repeated, MNC or what we call as big tech kinda becomes the tool or bridge to perform global scale mass surveillance to not only the mother nation but also other nations. There are no more controls for the users in terms of how they want to regain their control over their data. This perspective can also be expanded to nation. This means that there are no such thing as sovereignty exists. This could mean user to MNC and nation to nation. If you view it from both perspectives, the sovereignty aspects kinda disappear. This also means that net neutrality kinda disappear along with it. If you look at recent history incidents which are publicly known in US, subprime mortgage crisis, this crisis itself is a MAD, mutually assured destruction by its own. If you understand enough on the Edward Snowden whistleblower incident, you will realize that it all starts to make sense. The collapse of relative privacy begins to sprout out from the ground, regardless of nation or culture. I believe I talked too much on Edward Snowden incident, but I want to preserve my life by not overextending it. If you want to read it, feel free to explore by your own. Whatever I was talking now, at the moment, I do not specifically target any nation or culture. As the Edward Snowden incident applies to all nations and cultures. If you think I was not neutral and objective, I think you might be wrong on this matter. I will assume now that you understand on Edward Snowden incident. This fella by his own is a remarkable human being. If I recall correctly, in his early days, he challenged FBI or NSA in court cases in trying to reduce the strength of existing cryptography algorithms or standards. In my previous video, I have explained on potential backdoors and how agencies can reduce the cryptography algorithm's strength. Perhaps it is due to his belief and personality. Majority of the folks who work in cybersecurity sector and cryptography sector believe his work is not like FBI or NSA, which their existence is to try and weaken cryptography as a whole. This is indeed the case which I intend to believe as well. He publishes a lot of useful and alternatives to a lot of algorithms. Symmetric encryption, he publishes Cha-Cha-20 and Sa-Sa-20. MSC, he publishes Poly 1305. DHKX and Digital Signature, he publishes one famed elliptic curve named Curve 25519 for both purposes. His standards remain easy to use and customizable. Not only that, all of the standards he published have been thoroughly tested by most of the cryptographers. This means those standards were also secured. Before Edward Snowden incident, EFF has been doing its work maintaining internet civil liberty. After Edward Snowden incident, a lot of things had happened. End-to-end encryption, or encryption that only intended sender and recipient could decrypt, has become a thing worldwide. We first see them implemented in messaging applications such as WhatsApp and Signal. As time passes, this has basically become a norm worldwide as long as security and privacy are concerned. Sometime after end-to-end encryption messaging application has been developed and published to public, EU is considering to implement a moderation or regulation mechanism into this kind of non-monitorable applications. DJB, Edward Snowden, Bruce Schneier, EFF and EU nations such as Switzerland and Germany pushed back the legislation which mandatory queues of E2EE. That time when I read this news, it is actually shocking to me, but now that I look at it, it is no longer shocking. It is always a natural action for any nation's governments wanting to monitor their citizens. Sometime after this demand by EU, a very interesting yet disturbing news come out again. EU and US, with joint efforts, push legislation in mandating big tech companies such as Apple to implement image scanning to combat CSAM, child sexual abuse material. I believe that majority of the cybersecurity companies within EU, Bruce Schneier and EFF push back the legislation. I do not follow the incident since then, but at this point of time, I do not think that scanning image on secure cloud storage by Apple or even mandating to regulate E2EE is recommended or advised. The reason behind it is the sprouting of the collapse of relative privacy seems to become more and more obvious as time passes. Not to mention, there is also Edward Snowden incident I described earlier. Is it really that good of an idea to do this at this point of time? Continuing the conversation, cryptographers worldwide usually submit their standards and algorithms to NIST for review purpose. NIST, by its own, has also come out its own version of cryptography standards and algorithms. Not to say that all are not worth to use, but linking to the points I said earlier, you may start to realize something. If NIST publishes their own cryptography standards and algorithms, it is good by its own until those get modified by NSA. The most obvious example is the dual EC DRBG. I believe that nations that have capabilities will want to create their own cryptography algorithms and standards for internal use. However, up to this point when I am writing the speech, I only know that the nation that has this capability is China. I know that it is quite hurtful, but as long as individuals such as Edward Snowden, DJB, and organizations such as EFF do not exist or receive huge obstacles in trying to exist, regardless of how well or how easy to use those cryptography algorithms or standards might be, with an assumption that language barrier does not exist, those standards and algorithms will not be used worldwide. Cybersecurity experts and cryptographers already experienced the NIST NSA sort of incident beforehand. However, there is always a but. I believe that it is only a matter of time till the appearance of these individuals or organizations that I state here. No nation can escape the fate of the collapse in relative privacy. This also applies to China. That is all for this topic. Thank you very much.